Welcome. I'm Dr. John Stone, the Executive Chairman of IgG4ward, and it's a great pleasure to welcome you today. I believe that our foundation is going to do many important things for patients with IgG4-related disease, but there's really nothing that will be more important than this, and that is to help educate our patients and their loved ones about IgG4-related disease, and that's the purpose of these Fireside Chats. There are really good scientists working on this problem, and it's not only in Boston, not only in the United States. There are really good scientists and investigators all over the world focusing on this now.
I'm really curious as to what are some really specific strategies that you each used that helped you advocate.
What sources were more likely to be credible and less likely to be credible. So put more weight on the articles that are more likely to be credible, for example, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, New England Journal of Medicine, Lancet, American College of Rheumatology.
The right dose is the lowest amount of drug that achieves our treatment goal, complete suppression of the inflammation. The right duration is the shortest period that allows me to withdraw treatment while preserving its effectiveness for at least a while, because the treatment course has been successful in stifling inflammation, hopefully for a long time.
Question, what do we do in clinic? What do we think about when we're trying to monitor patients? So how often? What is the optimal interval? Optimal interval really has to be based upon an individual patient's characteristics. There's not one size that fits all, but if I had to choose one size that fits all, I would choose probably 4 months.
John said one of the most important organs that we think about, if not the most important organ that we think about in this disease. And it's one where there's a lot of challenges and patients tend to have a lot of questions. So hopefully we'll be able to go through a lot of those questions today.
Manifestation really is the pancreas, but then other glands such as the submandibular, submaxillar, and even the lacrimal glands, if you talk about glands and the parotid, are affected, but many other organs can be affected by this systemic disease.
Are there concerns for women or men on rituximab when trying to conceive a child? And with
this is the model here that we use when we think about how to have sort of the healthiest pregnancy possible. And that is that the healthier the mom, the healthier the baby.
It's dependent on the brain and the pituitary, but it's 5 major hormone systems get affected there. And so that can cause major disturbance.
And we definitely have a recommendation to avoid vaccination right after B-cell depletion. And by B-cell depletion, I mean agents that specifically focus on B cells, things like rituximab or ocrelizumab. You know, you mask and make sure you have good hand hygiene, but I don't know that anyone, unless you're living in a really small space, I don't know that anyone needs to move out. But I think, and also if both parties mask, so if it's, say, you and your partner, and the partner has COVID, I would have...
And it really addresses directly where we are with IgG4-related disease, I think. To cure sometimes, I would like to think we're going to get to a cure almost all the time in my career. To relieve suffering often, but to comfort always. And the statements of both of these physicians really, I think, underscore the paramount nature of putting mental health aspects first when taking care of a patient with IgG4-related disease.
About 3 years that was marked by a revolving door of surgeries. Just as quickly as the masses were removed, they would return, and they would return seemingly with a vengeance. I think kind of during that period of time, I can honestly say I felt a lot of despair, and there was a lot of...
Just the roller coaster of, as Sabrina described it, staring down the face of your own mortality and not knowing, am I going to live 6 months? Am I going to live 3 months? Was really, really tough. I definitely struggled very hard with the spiraling that Andrew described and the fear that Damon spoke of.
Where the airways go in, the hilum of the lungs. So in terms of ways that IgG4 can affect the lungs, so it can affect the parenchyma, and that's the gas exchange component of the lungs. You saw the alveoli there and the surrounding areas. It can also affect...
One of the differentiating features between retroperitoneal fibrosis and IgG4-related disease is that IgG4-related disease responds really quickly. And if we see someone respond in weeks as opposed to a year, we start to say, this is a different disease.
So Dr. Stone asked me to talk to you about the history of IgG4-related disease. It's a very difficult task to follow Dr. Stone's talk, and specifically beautifully he puts the story and the history of this disease together, but I'll try my best.
All of the talks have been so informative, and the opportunity for people to ask questions, to hear bits of your story and theirs. And so going from feeling quite alone and no one who's willing to help, to finding out that there is a community of people out there that have been diagnosed.
There's a lot of hope. There are those out there in the medical world who care enough to help us along, to find us the answers. And there's, for me, the importance and urgency is in keeping my husband healthy and happy.
And just the hope of knowing that people are working really, really hard to make things better for you is it's an important place to be.